Right. Today we're talking about ZocDoc. Is it worth it to use in 2025 for your private practice? I will hopefully answer all the questions you have about ZocDoc, what it is, and most importantly, is it worth giving a try? There's really no fluff here. ZocDoc doesn't know I'm making this video. I make this because I just want to help therapists just like myself make decisions that will actually help them grow their practice and run the practice that they want. And I was just trying to think, is there anything else I want to say in the introduction? I don't think so. Let's just hop into this. If you've been watching the videos over the last week, every day I've been posting a video essentially about different platforms and whether or not they're worth it. All of these videos are my own opinion, made by me, telling you about pros and cons. None of these are sponsored. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind. Without further ado, as always, let me just share my raw notes with you. Here we are. So that's a lot of ZocDoc right there. That's I went way too bananas on the ZocDoc logos here. Anyway, let's just jump right into this. All right. So if you don't know what ZocDoc is, let me just kind of go through it with you really quick. Its main bread and butter focus is going to be a marketing tool directory listing. A ZocDoc is essentially a directory where therapy seekers or people seeking medical care go to look at different providers that are available in their area, and then the thing that they can do with ZocDoc is book online. So it makes from a therapy seeker or a care seeker person, it makes booking very, very easy. Search the specialty, search the insurance, search the location, and then book right online. Okay, so that's its main draw, right? The other thing is, and so as the therapist, you would be using ZocDoc to market your practice and to be listed on their directory. The other thing they offer, and I put a question mark because it's not something you're really going to use that much, but they offer like an intake form thing. I don't know, it's not a platform, but when you're on the back end of ZocDoc, you can basically upload your intake documents and then clients can receive them, sign them, and fill them out. But if you're using an EHR or anything else like that, you definitely won't need this. This would just be like you just don't really need it. But it's there. They also offer a scheduler. Now, I actually will pull up my own website to show you. So if you go to ZocDoc.com and you start to search for a provider, you can book right from their website. But they also offer a online scheduler for like a widget for your own website. And this actually works kind of well. Let me actually show you what it looks like on my website. Give me 1 second. Nope, that's not what we want. Wait, hold on. Give me 1 sec. Boom, there we are. So this is my own practice website. And if you look down here at the bottom right, you're going to see a button. It's a little bit cut off, but you can get it's like that. So when someone comes to my website, this pops right up on the right. And if I click book online, you're going to see kind of all the providers and what's available. So this is actually kind of a nice thing. I will actually talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, but they offer this for your website. All right, let me come out of here. Let me go back. How do I go back now? Hold on 1 sec. Now I'm losing it. Hold on. There we go. All right. And then I also put down here that this is a new thing. I don't like, sometimes when I get a client booking through ZocDoc, they have this like beta feature about verifying insurance benefits, but they don't actually verify well. It just says in-network or not. It doesn't give you any sort of readout on different like copays or anything. So I don't think that's a tool, but they at least tell you it is. So anyway, that's there. But with all that being said, it's just, if you're going to use it as a provider, you're probably going to use it simply as a directory listing, all right, as a marketing tool. Let's dive right into the pros. And this is a simple video. We got pros, we got cons, and we got whether or not I think it's worth it. So the pros here. Number one, and this is going to be really depending on where you live, but ZocDoc is a fairly popular tool amongst therapy seekers. And I live in New York. It's going to vary on location, but I've noticed that there are a good number of people who look for providers on ZocDoc. So ZocDoc is well known among people looking for care. And as a provider who wants to grow their practice, being listed on any directory that is popular for therapy seekers is a good idea. So there's that. You will definitely get some referrals from ZocDoc just because of the popularity of the actual platform. I just showed you this scheduler on your website. This is actually free to use. The really cool part about ZocDoc is that, well, I guess it's not cool, but if you're using ZocDoc and you have the scheduler on your website, or you have your listing on their website, right, their own directory. If someone books with your practice through your website, but their scheduling widget, it's totally free. They don't charge you for that. You only get charged on ZocDoc when someone is on their directory and then they find you there and they book on there. Then you get charged. That's a con that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But I think the scheduler is a pretty cool free tool. It just gives clients an easier way to schedule with you on your own website. I just mentioned this, but you only pay for ZocDoc when someone books with your practice. So you don't pay to be on the platform. You don't pay to get set up or a monthly fee. You only pay when someone books, okay? It's very easy for clients to book appointments. So if you're the user, you're looking for a therapist, it's very simple. You go on there, you search, you can read some reviews, you can read the specialty, a couple buttons, and you're scheduled up. So it makes it really seamless for a client to schedule with you, which is really nice. Now, there are some caveats to this and how you manage this on the back end, but I would say that that is a pro overall. Any friction we can reduce for clients to join our practice is always a good idea. The other thing about it is, it can be used for your group practice. So if you have a group practice, you can make a group practice profile and then have all your providers in there under that umbrella of your practice. People will still show up in their own kind of category or their own profile, but they'll be linked to your group practice, which is pretty cool. All right, let's hop right into the cons. Number one, and this is what most people talk about, is the cost of ZocDoc. Now, they use a model that's different than most of the other platforms. You know, like Psychology Today has like a monthly fee, flat rate. You pay $30 a month no matter what, right? Alma is similar to that. You know, you pay their fee monthly no matter what. A ZocDoc is different in that you pay for per booking. Now, that doesn't mean just like someone books and then they show up and you get charged. If someone books with you, whether or not they stick with you or they show up or they don't show up, you're getting charged. And the charge is quite high. It can I know it ranges based on your location, but it can get as high as like $70 per booking, even if someone doesn't show up. So this usually turns a lot of people off and creates a little bit of fear in even giving the platform a try. But that I would say is a con, and that's one that people talk about a lot. Especially people get really frustrated when someone schedules with them and then they don't show up and you're charged anyway. Rightfully so, that's extremely frustrating. We're going to talk about that in just a second a little bit more. The other thing, I put this out of order. Let me put this here. The ZocDoc people, as if it's like a person, but ZocDoc as an entity is pretty firm about the cost of when someone books with you. They don't often issue refunds. I've heard they've been fairly difficult. So they're not gonna they make it pretty clear that you're getting charged no matter what. So when that does, and it will happen, when that happens, they're not gonna issue refunds. They're not that flexible. Some people look at this as a con as well. Now, going back to how I was talking about ZocDoc being easy for clients to book, that is true. But the way this works on the back end is essentially ZocDoc will integrate into your calendars. And it's not the best integration. So essentially, I use Simple Practice, and ZocDoc basically integrates with my Google Calendar, and my Google Calendar is also integrated with Simple Practice. So it's very convoluted. The setup is very challenging and a little bit tedious to work with. It's not, it's not a huge deal, but it does take a bit of work. So I need to make sure that my availability in ZocDoc, like on the actual back end of ZocDoc, is actually accurate, which means it's another extra step. I need to go into ZocDoc, make sure my availability is accurate. If something changes over the course of the week, I need to go in and change it. You need to make sure, so you need to really just make sure you're updating that calendar. And then when someone books on ZocDoc, it will show up in your Google Calendar. It will show up also in Simple Practice, but it's not like, so for example, if someone books on ZocDoc, it does show up in my Simple Practice calendar, but it's not the actual client profile. I still have to make a separate appointment for that client and make a profile for them. It just basically creates a placeholder. So that's what ZocDoc is doing. It creates a placeholder in your Simple Practice account. And you'll see that reflected in both Simple Practice and Google, which is helpful to see it. But that extra step of creating the actual appointment, that right there can be a little bit tedious. And I've had a number of occasions where I just forgot to update that calendar because it's just another step that I forgot about. Someone books the appointment and then I have to reschedule and that just can be a pain. So you are going to end up fiddling around a little bit more with their calendar integration. And now I work with Simple Practice. It may be better with other platforms, but I would note this as a con. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, but I do want you to be aware of it. As of my time using ZocDoc, there's been no way to set up a free initial consultation, like a 10 or 15 minute call. Clients just book an initial intake appointment, basically. That's what it looks like from their end. So you then have to figure out, do you call the client in between when they scheduled? Do you send a document that says you'll be in touch? And every practice can be different, but if you want to offer free consultations that you can kind of screen the client to make sure there's no high-risk issues before you actually see them, you are going to have to figure out a way to get in contact with the client, probably just calling them, in between when they book with you and that actual first appointment, and that can create a little bit of added pressure. I prefer clients being able to schedule the free consultation, but that just is not an option for ZocDoc, so you do have to figure out how to work around that. And the other thing, I listed this under cons, but this can actually be under pros too, is the reviews. So ZocDoc is a huge proponent of pushing reviews. So if you see a client, they will send an email automatically asking the client for a review. A lot of therapists are afraid of reviews, at least in my experience, but I see that the fear of the review, and of course there are horror stories where you hear people getting reviews, it's not good, it does a lot of damage to the practice, but these stories I have learned are few and far between. They happen, but they're not as common. What I usually see is people get decent reviews, or if they get one that's not great, they're actually able to recover from it. But a review can actually really help your practice. And in today's day and age, having reviews shows that your practice is, in some regards, very real, right? You can respond. Actually, as a therapist, you have to be very careful. You can't just respond to reviews. Okay, let me backtrack. I'm thinking about other business stuff. So you have to still deal with reviews ethically and in a HIPAA compliant way, which means you can't really respond. But there are ways to manage reviews and things like that. All that to be said, people are scared of reviews, but I have seen that reviews have worked more favorably for people more often than the other way around. All right, so we can put that under cons. And then the more reviews you get, the better they are, more likely it is that clients book. So that's where it could be under a pro. All right, so these are the main pros and cons. I feel like I'm rambling a lot now about ZocDoc for 12 minutes. Hopefully you're getting a better sense of the platform. Now let me give you my conclusion here and add a couple of other things. So what I would do, I do recommend at least trying ZocDoc. I would give it a try for 6 months or so. There's a minimal risk, right? Now let's just say worst case, you try ZocDoc for your first month, you get 5 bookings, no one shows up, you waste this money. Then stop, then just don't use it, right? There's no commitment, you can stop at any time, you can turn it off. That likely won't happen. What I would try to do is do 6 months, see what the ROI is, return on investment. So you wanna track the clients that come to you over those 6 months through ZocDoc, track the total cost of using ZocDoc, right? So every booking, all the cost involved. And then you also wanna keep track of the clients that came through ZocDoc and how much you earned from each of those clients. So if you get 1 client and they stay for 6 sessions, how much did that earn you? Did you get 5 clients, they each stayed for 10 sessions, how much did that earn you? And you would take that total that you earned and you would subtract it from the total spent on ZocDoc, and you would see what your return on investment is. That's the best way to determine whether or not it's quote unquote worth it. But I do think ZocDoc is a popular enough directory that it's at least worth giving a try. I hope that this information was helpful. Let me switch back to here. I know this is a platform people ask a lot about. People have issues with it, but hopefully this is a transparent video where you have a better sense of what it's all about. If you have more questions, please leave them down in the comments. I've been using ZocDoc for a while. Overall, I think it works okay. If you have questions, please let me know. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you learned something. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.